Hello, and welcome to another Spiritual Thursday. Today's topic, Tao Te Ching, a text by Lu Shi that some say is the most important text in Chinese spirituality and possibly the most influential spiritual text in all history. The Tao Te Ching is a classic Chinese text and the foundational work of Taoism, traditionally credited to the sage Lu Shi through the text's authorship. The oldest excavated portion of this text dates back to the late 4th century BC. The Tao Te Ching is central to both philosophical and religious Taoism, and it has been highly influential to Chinese philosophy and religious practices in general. Terminology orienting within the text has been reinterpreted and elaborated upon by legalist thinkers, Confucius, and particularly Chinese Buddhists, which had been introduced to China significantly after the initial solidification of Taoist thought. It is comparatively well known in the West and one of the most translated texts in literature. The Tao Te Ching has a long and complex textual history. Known versions and commentaries date back 2 millennia, including ancient bamboo, silk, and paper manuscripts discovered in the 20th century. The Tao Te Ching is ascribed to Lu Shi, whose existence has been a matter of historical debate. His name, which means old master, has only fueled controversy on this issue. The first historical reference of him is in the records of the Grand Historian by Chinese historian Sima Quan. Generations of scholars have debated his historical existence and the dating of the Tao Te Ching. Linguist studies of the text, vocabulary, and rhythm scheme point to the date of composition after classic poetry, yet before Xuanzi. It is generally taken as preceding the Xuanzi, the other core Taoist text, as claimed within the text itself. The theme of the text, Tao Te Ching, describes the Tao as the source and ideal of all existence. It is unseen but not transcendent, immensely powerful yet supremely humble. Being the root of all things, people have desires and free will, and thus are able to alter their own nature. Many act unnaturally, upsetting the natural balance of the Tao. The Tao Te Ching intends to lead students to the return to their natural state in harmony with Tao. Language and conventional wisdom are critically assessed. Taoism views them as inherently biased and artificial, widely using paradoxes to sharpen the point. Wu-wei, literally non-action or non-acting, is the central concept of the Tao Te Ching. The concept of the Wu-wei is multifaceted and reflected in the word's multiple meanings. Even in English translation, it can mean not doing anything, not forcing, not acting. In the theatrical sense, creating nothingness, acting spontaneously, and flowing with the moment. This concept is used to explain the Ziren, or the harmony with the Tao. It includes the concepts that value distinctions are ideological and seeing ambition of all sorts as orienting from the same source. Tao Te Ching used the term broadly with simplicity and humanity as key virtues, often in contrast to selfish actions. On a political level, it means avoiding such circumstances as war, harsh laws, and heavy taxes. Some Taoists see a connection between Wu-wei and the aesthetic practices such as Wu-weiing, meaning sitting in oblivion, emptying your mind of bodily awareness and thought, like found in the Xuanzi. Many people consider the Tao Te Ching ancient wisdom for modern times. The mysterious ancient wisdom may be hard to translate, but the meaning is clear. Learning to be self-aware could improve modern life. 2,400 years after it was composed, we need the Tao Te Ching's lesson in self-awareness more than ever. The Tao Te Ching translates roughly as the way of integrity. In its 81 verses, it delivers a treatise on how to live in a world with goodness and integrity. An important kind of wisdom in a world where many people believe such a thing to be possible. Texts as old as the Tao Te Ching are subject to the problems of both translation and interpretation. Take the fact that there is a collection of more than 100 versions of just the famous opening verse. Can you imagine the whole 81 verses? How many versions exist? The most popular modern translation of this text is by Stephen Mitchell. Stephen Mitchell does a remarkable job of interpreting the more abstruse metaphors of the 4th century mind for modern audiences. Although this does of course leave the possibility that it is actually the wisdom of Mitchell and not the author shining through these words. Many readers derive more anger than comfort from the philosophy of the Tao Te Ching. This is because the Taoist philosophy derived from a parallel philosophical tradition. It's the compulsive need to answer unanswerable questions, the mind's great dysfunction. The unnameable is the eternally real. Naming is the origin of all particular things. We're accustomed to perceiving our world and all the objects in it by naming them. But what if we stopped obsessively naming everything and just instead rested in awareness? What the Tao Te Ching does time and time again is attempt to show us how we might see things if we could spend more time in awareness and less time in naming. Perhaps if we were more aware, we would worry less and we could see better what actually needs doing. But the central thing that the Tao Te Ching asks us to be aware of is not the world, but ourselves. Self-awareness. We all know the term, but do we really know what it means? Love the world as yourself, then you can take care of all things. Closes verse 13 of the Tao Te Ching. What would it be like to care for all things as much as we cared for ourselves? We as humans are mirrored in a deep-seated and near-universal delusion. Despite knowing that we're part of a vast universe on a massively complex planet shared with 7 billion other human lives, we continue with the truly insane perception that we are the center of the world. Today, we seem to actively select against leaders who demonstrate self-awareness. Instead, in political figures such as Tony Blair and Boris Johnson, the mass media landscape favors survival of the biggest and most monstrous deformed egos. The Tao Te Ching says, if you overesteem great men, people become powerless. They're an unavoidable byproduct of power, a scum of pure ego that forms on the surface of society and imitates the appearance of leadership. The Tao Te Ching is a 2,400-year-old reminder that today, as then, every one of us has a choice to practice self-awareness and exercise our own power in and over the world. That might come as more of a nasty wake-up call than a comfort to some of us. In the words of David Foster Wallace, it is unimaginably hard to do this, to stay conscious and alive in the adult world, day in and day out. As hard as it is for the moments we read it, the Tao Te Ching makes it seem at least possible. Taoism is an ancient tradition of philosophy and religious beliefs that is deeply rooted in Chinese customs and worldview. Taoism is about the Tao. This is usually translated as the way, but it's hard to say exactly what this means. The Tao is the ultimate creative principle of the universe. All things are unified and connected in the Tao. If you break down the meaning of the Tao Te Ching, in Chinese, Tao means path, Te means virtue, and Ching means ancient texts. So basically, you're on a path to virtue. I'll leave you with a quote. When you merge with the universe, the whole world is attracted to you, discovering through you its own security, peace, and good health. The world's rhythms are our rhythms. To treat our planet with care, moderation, and love is to be in synchrony with ourselves. Thank you for watching another spiritual learning video. Please check out our spiritual learning playlist for more content like this. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. And we'll see you next week.